Testing. All right. Sweet. So this is the first Twitch stream for Bullet Bros. Pretty exciting stuff. No one's going to be watching for a long time. Just got to get used to talking. So this is actually kind of a fun spot to begin kind of streaming the development process. I'll pop the game open. We can see where we're at. You know, I've been working on this for quite a while, like 5-6 years in different capacities. Recently, I just threw up 2 different game modes. One is campaign, where you actually have the soldiers running around, run and gun, Contra kind of super funny and violent mode, and then a vehicle only version. And the reason I have these two, just so you know, some people might only like the kind of puzzle aspects of the vehicle stuff, and that is also further along. So I'll start showing some of the vehicle stuff. This is the buckle up mode, because seatbelts are important, especially in the Bullet Bros universe. Actually, let's quit game, and I want to run that again and start a fresh game so we can go through the first little tutorial hangar. Here we are again. Select game mode. Let's do a vehicle. Ooh, even better the second time. I love it. If there was somebody here, I'd ask them what the audio levels were like, but we don't have any viewers. Holding strong at 0. Yeah, I'm sure. Let's delete it. Start again. And this is kind of what I call the smasher band. You can see the controls down there. Basically, left and right drive, and you have your 3 smashers. I actually think the military would like this design. I'll pop down the desktop audio, actually. Don't need that so loud. But yeah, I think this is pretty much the epitome of good militaristic Jeep design. And I wanted something where everything was controlled by physics rather than you just press a button and it's canned animation. So that's why I'm excited about the possibilities with these levels. So we'll run through. You can actually get pretty high if you time your jumps right. That cursor. Eventually in the game you'll unlock different vehicles, and this little preview of what you have in the background. So far I really have the smasher van and the walker in the background there. That's functioning. I have a few levels with that, and those are kind of the first things I'm focusing on. Some destructible stuff. Get used to smashing. Right now I'm controlling with just the all keyboard, WASD, and the arrow keys for the different smashers. But I support controller. We can switch to controllers right here. And if you have controller active, it'll just show you the bumpers control and the right analog stick. And you can also do, some people prefer the mouse, so left and right, and middle mouse will be the bottom smasher. And even more other people, like Ryan, prefers the spacebar as jump, and then the mouse clicks. So currently I just kind of support everything. Whatever is active input is what you'll use. Is what will register. I'll probably put in little controller configs similar to like Fortnite or whatever. Just ask you what you prefer. So basic little tutorial level, and we'll go into a few of these. My hope is eventually, if get a good enough community, behind this game that, you know, I'll be able to design levels within the Twitch stream, and then that same night I'll upload them and see what some of the viewers, how they respond, if it's too easy or difficult. Get the feedback and, you know, be able to iterate completely transparent. I think that would be awesome. And you know, some studios have tried that, but I think I'd have a kind of a unique ability to implement very quick since I'm a sole developer. And, you know, that means no red tape, no stupid meetings for every decision. We can just rock and roll, and, you know, I can steal your ideas immediately and reap the benefits. So right now, these trial levels, we have like, you can just beat at them regular, just get the end bullet, or you can go for all the money, or all 8 gears. And I think that'll be my main finish criteria at the beginning. But later on, I've thought about adding, if you unlock all these regular criterias, then maybe you'll have like a black bullet that you have to get. That's just adds a bunch of crazy spikes or something, like super difficult for the hardcores out there. Let's go to leaderboard. I have leaderboards implemented. Only have a few beta testers so far. Looks to be about 8. Ah, look, #1 hanging in there. All right. So if you know, if you guys ever want to help test this out, hit me up, tweet at me or whatever, and I'm sure I'll be able to get a beta key out to you. Super secret right now. You can press B to increase your bullets. So let's do a walker level. I think this is a walker level. Okay, yeah. Just walking the goat. Here we go. Now, these controls are purposefully kind of crazy, similar to that QWOP game, if you've ever played that. I was really, always thought that game was hilarious. So, I'll just explain these controls. Left and right will shift your weight back and forth. And left stick up and down rotates those hips. You gotta have good hip rotation as a walker. And your legs are all controlled by different analog, by the different triggers on the top shoulder buttons. So it's all about figuring out how to time your leg movement and rotate your hips and lean forward. Also have a gun just on the analog stick if you want, just for good measure. And lastly, each foot has a jumper piston. So that's the same basic script I have on the Smasher band. Pop up here. This is the ultimate leaning game. Like, as I'm playing this, it's like so easy to lean around. Reminds me of like people first playing video games, myself included, trying to, oh god, this is it. So I use a little jumper there. And I'm actually good at this, so you can see how awkward this mode is. Beat that. Okay. Go to world map. So that's a little preview of the Buckle Up, the vehicle version. I'm going to quit this, and we'll go back in to Mixed Meat. Now, like I said, Buckle Up is further along. Like I have more levels for that, and it's kind of a cleaner experience to just jump right in. It's more defined on controls and everything. But Mixed Meat, this is the game that is going to ultimately be the full experience, with players, multiplayer, vehicles, and everything. The scope of it is just a lot larger. So at first I was thinking about splitting the games into 2 different games, but I thought that'd be kind of lame to people see the same assets in each of them. So I just want to have one cheap game with both modes and do that. No one will complain about an extra game, will they? So your actual figure movement, I've been working on these controls for a long time, and they are a little different, especially if you're using a controller. So recently I added mouse aim support, so you run around with WASD, you shoot any direction, down you can go prone, and I like going prone because it's you turn into more of a physics ragdoll when you're prone, so you can slide around, and as you're aiming you kind of rotate around and do funny little maneuvers. So it's a little, again, more dynamic than just a static animation. And if you hold right click in the air, you see the grapple hook pops off whichever direction you're aiming, and that has a slight recharge time, so you'll see it turn red if you do it too soon. That's just so you don't basically spam up in the air forever. And as I just kind of recently tweaked the value on the grapple hook, and it was important for me. I always want your player to be able to kind of grapple onto anything. I was just always annoyed in games where they limit you, and you basically all right. Hey, thanks, Sassy. Good to have you in here. How's the audio level on the game audio versus the human voice audio? There we got a little stumpy boy. And if you can, just be sure to donate about $20,000. Would appreciate it. Okay, cool. So would you recommend tweaking it, turning up the game audio, or leaving it the same? Alright, I'll just trust that it's good. So these are the meat stamper machines, and basically I wanted something in the game. At first I was just spawning enemies just everywhere, but I wanted to give the player some control over the spawn and be able to, see them spawn on the screen. So basically this will continue to loop until you turn off the lever. So if you're tired of enemies spawning, you have control over that. But if you want to use the enemies, and I'll show you why you might need to do that in a second, you can leave it on. Let's get a little bit of cash. So in this campaign mode, ultimately you'll buy vehicles and upgrade them using in-game cash. I was always kind of annoyed in games where you need to upgrade stuff, and there's all these kind of abstract currencies. It's like, why not just give cash to the player? Don't make them convert it to gold, to diamond stacks, or whatever weird crap they put in. It's just all about getting the cash. Whoa, that's a checkpoint. Celebrate. Okay, we got a little game audio, tiny bit louder. Okay, we'll try that. Ooh, we got full pause enabled. That's amazing. Okay, pump up the game audio a little bit. Is this how's this, sassy? Can you feel the metal coming through? This is, by the way, the soundtrack's all by this guy, Ferd K. You can look him up on YouTube. Amazing dude. Super huge video game fan, and my significant other, Vicky, who's actually on the chat right now, spying on me. She found him and said, "Hey, why don't you reach out to this guy? He has awesome video game covers." And I was like, he had a ton of followers on YouTube. I didn't think he'd ever respond, but he was into it, and we started working together. He made all these amazing metal tracks, which totally fit the game, I think. Okay, so I'm going to show an example of the different meat mixing. That's the name of this game mode anyway, so you probably want to see it. Slide down. Ooh, nice prone slide. Okay, so this guy's legs here, fortunately he blew his torso off. Oh god. I might have to... This is perfect. I might need those legs. Okay. So, in Bullet Bros, there is no health bar. It's all visceral. It's the most realistic combat simulator known to man. Because if you get hit, you stay hit. And you have to survive in whatever state you're at. Meaning... Okay, perfect. So, I need some legs. I can take them from my enemy. And that's meat mixing. That's the mode you've all been waiting for. Now I have my double jump. I'm ready to go tackle the rest of the level. So each enemy type will kind of have a different perks. Like this guy is kind of the flight guy. He had little wings on his suit and everything. So that's why he's the double jump. I got to work into the UI where that stuff pops up, so you kind of know what your current soldier build is. But that'll come in time. So now you can see with the double jump and the grapple, you can get some truly fantastic height, and you might be able to sneak out some secrets in the level if you do it right. Whoa. I wanted to put it like right in here, so it kind of reminded me of the scene in Wizard, the Fred Savage movie, where you're watching Mario 3 footage without, the game's not even released, and you're seeing some crazy secrets. So, a little shout out to Mario 3, one of the greatest games ever made. Gotta turn that spawner off. Get some greasy cash. It's interesting, my frame rate's a little bit lower on Twitch. I didn't expect that. It's just all these graphics I'm pushing out. Oh god, that was almost bad. So this is our, I just kind of updated this. This is the boss hallway. I wanted to give a little Mega Man vibe. Give you a warning that you're about to enter the arena. And we have Cryo Tanks here. So these will just give you an extra fresh body. You can chop up to your liking. Let's say you come in here and you don't have a torso or head. You can pop off and update your body. Of course, in this case, my body's already good, so let's get that back. Another easy thing I just added recently were these boss doors. Oh god, I did not try to do that on purpose. But essentially I wanted a door that was one way, kind of gated one way, so you enter the boss room, and once you start the boss fight you can't get back. So that's why I add those levers. And once you spawn the boss, it's still persistent. The damage you've done will maintain, and you can just start fighting him. If I can grapple up onto him. Oh god, this is not going to go well. Okay. The head actually does some pretty good melee damage when you're just the head, but as you might expect, it's a little harder to get around. I think what I'll add pretty soon is a way to have other soldiers in the boss arena so that you can kind of steal their body once you get hit. Currently you're kind of screwed if you don't have anything. Alright, so that's the first little level on the mixed meat mode. And Pickle says the little area we just went through is very inside game vibe, and she says she likey, so I appreciate that, Pickle. Yeah, that Inside's an amazing game, and it's crazy how it looks so minimalistic with its rendering, but the kind of polish and the amount of tech that went into their look is crazy to me. Really inspiring stuff. So we'll do one more of these little soldier levels, and then I'll get to some actual development. I want to implement a new beginning to this mixed meat mode. And I've started a little bit, so I'll just pick up where I'm at. There's another little secret over here. If you get good at the grappling hook, you'll be able to kind of find this one. But there's some really hilarious moments when you start like playing with other players with the grapple hooking onto each other, and just the mayhem that ensues from that. It's pretty fun to watch. At least I think so. Okay, so you could continue to kind of cliffhanger your way up there, find a secret. It's not going to be that easy though. And this is an example. Once you purchase vehicles throughout the game, those vehicles will be enterable. Similar to like a Yoshi, and you know, they'll be just around the level. It's not going to be, each vehicle is not going to be in every level, but if you buy them, you'll start seeing them populate around. So let's pop off our body for a second, and I'll show you some of the kind of deflection. I hit those bullets, and any time you deflect an enemy bullet, it'll just reverse to a player bullet. So it's kind of a last resort. It's usually not very safe. Now when we're just in our leg state, you have a couple of like kick attacks, basically like a Bruce Lee flying kick and a head stomp. Oh god, did not work out. Restart that. Yeah, I kind of wanted the leg mechanics to just feel a little bit last resort, flying across the map. Good power, but kind of hard to control. Well, I wanted bad controls. It's kind of been a tough balance because I do want a wacky, fun experience that's a little abnormal, but I also don't want it to feel too clunky, which is, you know, something I'm still ironing out. So there I did a meat mix by drilling my head into the enemy body, and basically now I have a nice saw machine gun. Does a lot more damage and has a lot more kick, so you can kind of get a lot higher jump this way. And that combined with the grapple hook, you can get some crazy air, kind of stringing that together. So hopefully these kind of wacky control, like different soldier builds, will let players just experiment and kind of have a sandbox experience, just running around gunning. And for those of you, looks like one more joined. This is Bullet Bros. I'm the developer, and I'm just now starting the stream, so you're in at the ground floor here. Very exciting times. Exciting time to be alive. If you have any questions at all, let me know. This will be released on Steam, early access in the next couple months. Just trying to polish it up, especially the intro experience. Right now it kind of just starts you in the fray, and there's no real explanation of what the game is, so that's what we're going to be working on today, setting that intro up a little bit more. Oh god. So the torso is it's the hardest one to like move around, because you're kind of rolling and you're not a perfect circle, but it gives you access. You can still use your grapple hook, and you can still shoot freely. So, oh, nice. So I got legs from that rocket guy. I'm ready to roll again. Now, got our checkpoint for the boss fight, but that's just the generic body. On some bosses I might spawn a different soldier for you to swap out the body parts with. Here's another boss. This guy's kind of inspired by King Hippo and Punch Out. Basically, his belly's the weak point. Take him out. Get too close, try to smash you up. And this is be a pretty common mechanic. So right now I'm holding right click to get out my grapple. And you'll be able to kind of, as enemies corner you, try to grapple over and kind of flank him from the other side. His bullet pattern right now is kind of insane. Haven't updated it in a while, so be able to get him now. Basically, I just for some reason I wanted a boss that you just saw in half from the stomach, so pretty gross stuff. His mesh updates slowly as you're fighting him, and it's pretty simple. You just try to get close, dodge the bullets. And we got another level. Yes, sorry, Sassy. It's not, not the most pleasant. She says, so gross. Alright, so here's our world map. We've beaten a few levels, and the vehicle levels are here too, once you unlock them. So that's a good little preview of where we're at in the game, I think. Now let's hop into Unity, and I'll show you kind of what I'm thinking about doing. Open up my starting labs level. And my friend Ryan Demita, he's a game developer also, worked at Bungie for a long time as a concept artist. He was playing the game and had a great idea to introduce the whole meat mixing element. Suggested that we start the player as just a head. So I kind of blocked in this little area here. It's not functioning yet. But we're gonna spawn our initial player when you first create a game. We're gonna spawn them in kind of a glass tank as just a head. You're behind enemy lines and they're studying your soldier because of his unique healing abilities. They have your head sample and they're gonna be trying to create a bunch of meat soldiers that are clones of yourself, your same DNA. That's the basic storyline. And so you bust out. And the idea is we want the head to bust out of this jar, and we'll have a gated door, and the only people that can get through the door are some scientists in this room. They're sitting there running tests on you, and basically your first challenge, to kind of tutorialize it, will be to do a head drill down through and take one of the scientist's body. He'll have like a visible key card and a clipboard, and yeah, then you'll be able to get through the door. The next room, I'm thinking you'll just be able to break all these different tanks. We'll spawn random enemies. They're not going to have they'll be just static, so you can just sit there and mess around with the meat mixing mechanic. See if, experiment, take different heads, guns, legs, and by the time you exit that, you'll see the vehicle hangar area and kind of run through a little tutorial zone. That I'm still kind of debating. At first, the tutorial I had a lot of message pop-ups, but that's kind of lame. Someone forwarded me some good videos on how Valve did their tutorial stuff for Half-Life 2, which was a lot more just instinctual. It's not like hand-holding. So I'm going to try to figure out elements, similar to how I'm going to tackle this first area that help players figure out the mechanics. Because if there's one thing I have done is create a lot of crazy systems, and I just want to kind of gate the player into learning about them one at a time. One option would also be to do that continue that system with each different body part, and then have them join up at the end. So depending on how this head zone feels, might try to do that as well. So right now I have this working where you just spawn in the jar. So first let's work on making this jar an object that we can break out of. And I'll actually just copy one of these tanks that I've set up. These are some Cryo Tank prefabs. I'll move it over and just I'll rip out some of the mechanics here that we need. I'll explain them to you as we go. Throughout this stream, this is my first one, but I will be doing little art demos, teaching you how certain assets are made, and just basic C# scripting demos. You know, my whole career was as an artist, and then, you know, realizing how accessible these game engines are, and scripting and tutorials everywhere. I kind of slowly realized that, hey, I could slowly learn to script and program, and it was a lot easier than I expected. So I hope I can inspire, you know, artists that were kind of intimidated by coding to at least get in and mess around, because it's a lot easier than I thought it would be. So here's my little Cryo Tank prefab. And the key thing we need here is my script vehicle health. That just basically, we have this on here, and we need the collision, and I need to tag it as enemy vehicle. So what I'm going to do on this Cryo Tank is I'll add the vehicle health script. I'll just copy the component over. So that's the health, 25, that's fine. We need to tag this as the, just enemy vehicle for now. Basically, when the collision happens, it checks, okay, was it an enemy or enemy vehicle before it applies the damage script. Okay, so now this has health, and anywhere on the colliders here, if you hit it, it should flash red and deduct health until it breaks. And I have a Cryo Tank destroyed prefab that would kind of match the size of this. So as soon as it hits below 0, it'll just spawn that separate game object and get rid of this one. So already, I think this should work, but, you know, like most things, it will not work the first couple tries. On this Cryo Tank, a lot of objects in Unity will start with the animator when you first import them, but, you know, this is just going to be a static thing, so no animation necessary. And let's just add one more collider. I think the collider needs, the actual collider that damage is going to happen to will need to be on this object itself. So we'll just have the right side interactable at first. And you'll notice, you know, it's essentially a 2D kind of game environment, but I use 3D assets. And when I first made the Game Maker prototype, I was rendering out like 3D stuff into sprites because it was a 2D game. But I found that, you know, most of my background experience was in 3D, so I was able to work a lot quicker this way. It's just how my brain thinks. People think like 2D sprite stuff would be quicker, but in fact, it's really time consuming doing that. I do love the kind of classic pixel art look, though. It's just not what I'm good at or trained up in. Okay, so this might work. I'm going to save this and see what happens. I'm sure it won't. All right, okay. So we got a guy in a jar. Oh, all right. Well, didn't expect that to work. And that actually looked legit, like, yeah. Even the other prefab of the damage, even though it was just a small jar, it kind of fits. So I'll eventually add a bunch of water splashing out or whatever when we do this. Okay, so I think I have these other colliders on the side just to make sure you don't like squeeze through. So I'll move that out a little bit more. And I'm gonna add another collider that we can shoot. So I'll just copy and paste on the same game object. Move this on to the left side. So if you want to break the jar on the left, you can. Okay, good to know. So I'll lower the desktop audio when I'm in Unity. You think about half would be good. I can also increase my regular channel if that sounds good. Okay. So now I'm hoping I'll be able to kind of damage either side of this jar and pop my player out. Once we have that, we'll figure out a script. Okay, looks like this collider here needs to be a little... Alright. Yeah, that's not too bad. Felt good. How was that, Sassy? Was that audio a little better? And okay, sounds good. And Sassy is also who I referred to as Pickle because her name's Sassy Pickle. 2 code names. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I feel like this collider should be moved in a little bit. And let's, just for the hell of it, let's get that one, the destruction prefab, and make a new custom one for this new shape. So look up my Cryo Tanks. Okay, so here is the destruction prefab. We were using, and that basically spawns in this orientation. But we will make a new one. So I think we just want to move the top up. Cage pieces doesn't really make sense with this one since actually I'll probably have some metal pieces in the, eventually. So we'll add those and we'll make a few more of them. And kind of a weird hacky thing that I realized in Unity. Basically, when you have these physics objects with rigid body, and if the collision layer of gibs or jibs, those collide with each other. And so if you have intersecting junk pieces like this, where their colliders kind of intersect, then they actually explode out naturally. The physics engine just wants to separate collision problems like that, and I just found it to be an easy way to get cool explosions. Now, the one thing I'm not sure about, it might actually be a lot more expensive, having it solve those scenarios for us, but not really going to optimize that until it is an issue. Haven't really noticed performance problems with that, which in general I think is great advice. Multiple people have given me, you know, as I was kind of learning how to code, don't optimize things until you have to. Otherwise, you'll sit there. You're always going to be able to figure out how to write a cleaner method or function, but you don't necessarily have to until it's an issue. Okay, so we have this new kind of prefab I think will fit a lot better. Maybe we even want to adjust its default scale to match closer to what we have. Should have done that first, to be honest, because now we have the top piece is misaligned, but whatever. And you've noticed the kind of glass shatter effect. Let's make sure that's still, yeah, that's a little high now. In my meat bubble, I'm going to take the meat bubble out of this. Basically, that was for when soldiers spawn out of these tanks. I have a little splatty meat pop. Well, you know, it doesn't feel right. Anytime I remove gore from the game, it feels wrong, so I'll leave that in there. Maybe it's the part of the head breaking off as you pop out. All right. And this is a lot larger scale, so I think I will go into my glass shatter particle, and we will change our max particles. Let's go up to like 200. See if this looks more, well, maybe the rate needs to be higher. And lifetime, maybe. Let's see. Yeah, it might be a little bit better. We'll tweak that once we add like the water effect and everything. All right. And so I've kind of refactored this prefab. Now I'm going to move it outside of my little lab. I just had it there for positioning. And we'll call this the head tank destroyed. And I think really I might change my mind later, but I really plan on only having this initial cryo tank, the head tank, happen once here, just at the beginning of the level, so I won't be using these much. Oh, it's so annoying renaming things in Unity. I think they fixed it in the more recent versions, but you have to hit enter before it takes. Okay, so I have my destroyed state here, and let's see, go to my prefabs folder, and we'll make a new section for all these starting lab assets. Creating a folder is fun. Starting lab, there we go. And right now this prefab would still be linked to the other cryo tank destroyed, so that's why I need to drag it down here. Now this becomes its own unique path to the prefab, and I can delete it. Now we have the prefab saved. Oh, what happened here? I think we saved it right. Okay, yeah. And we need to go to our cryo tank head and hook up our new cryo tank destroyed so that pops out. So I think I called it head something. Yeah, head tank destroyed. And we'll go through some of these scripts a little bit later once we get some momentum going. So we have that working. Let's test it to see if this kind of lines up a little better. Sometimes you have to like save your scene after updating prefabs for everything to work. If you're new to the chat, I see someone just joined. Welcome. This is kind of a test for the Bullet Bros development stream. Basically, I'm just going to be streaming development of the final kind of few months of my game, making levels and just hooking up. Right now we're hooking up the intro sequence where your player spawns in a jar. And kind of, yeah, I have a background in, I used to have a school called Futurepoly where I trained the kind of art side of games. But I found my passion in indie development, so that's what I'm doing now. I just want to make it as transparent as possible. So we have our little dude in here. Eventually it'll be just a head. And let's see, breaking out. Oh, okay. So that has some scale problems there. But in general, seem to work. So let's fix our scale. Head tank prefab. Now when you update prefabs, you can either drag them out in your scene, make the changes, and then apply it, or we can just click right in on the prefab where it actually belongs in the hierarchy, and we can change its default settings right here. If you don't know, a prefab is just kind of a group of assets that you've modified, and you save it as a new asset. And anywhere that's placed in your game, as you update the source, it'll update all those prefabs. So very common thing to work with. I guess you'd call it similar if you've used Unreal Engine. It's similar to like a blueprint. I think that's what they call their prefabs. So you'd have scripts and basically everything to make it functional right on the prefab. All right, that felt better. Okay, so now we need to adjust our spawn so that it's just a player head. So it's more realistic, of course. Can't have a guy with a gun in a jar. It doesn't make sense. All right, so hop into our Visual Studio. You can see some of my secret crappy coding. And essentially, I made a tag. Just gonna make sure we're... So on player spawn, or the actual spawner that's part of our game systems group, this spawns your vehicle or player anytime, obviously. And we just added a public boolean, which is just a true or false type data store, and it's called head spawn. So I think the only time we're going to spawn as a head will be in the beginning, but we don't know. So we'll store that here, head spawn, and we want to turn this on to true through menu functions. Basically all my buttons, anything that I tied to UI, I just add that function in menu functions. And so I have a method called starting lab that is only accessible from the first time you start your game. So here I've already set it. We have a boolean player spawner head spawn sets to true. So that's all we need to do there. And as soon as we do the head spawn from the actual game here, we'll turn it off. And I'm sure actually if you die, I'll have to leave that on. Maybe after you pass the main science door, then I'll toggle that off. That'll make more sense once you meet the scientist requirement. Okay, so I need to change our player after he spawned. And the body manager controls like which parts of the body are still intact. And I'm getting access to that component right here. So my player shell houses the main input data for the player, and that's where everything becomes a child of when I spawn it. And then I spawn my player. So up here, I instantiate my soldier prefab. And after I do that, I can get access to its body manager. And the body manager is what I need to... The easiest thing right now, let's just do... Get down to the body manager has legs equals false, and has torso equals false. I'm sure you guys can Sherlock Holmes what that means. And then check body might be what we want here. After basically your player gets hit or there's a body change, then I run the check body method. Just kind of goes through the heads and legs, turns off all... I have way too many crazy game objects for all that stuff. But I think this will work. Now let's make sure... It might automatically do that check body, but we'll see if this works first. And I just remembered the only time we want to do this is if head spawn equals true. Otherwise, it's just a regular fresh spawn. Save that and update the build. Cross our fingers. Please be ahead. Come on, be ahead in the jar. Give me a head in the jar. That's all I need. Fuck. No head in the jar. Now, just as a double check, I'm gonna launch this from one of my other start screen or something. You might need, I think I might need a fresh start for that, because I'm setting that head tag from a different script that doesn't exist in the level, which is probably a red flag, meaning there's a better way to do that. My stupid cursor, custom cursor is kind of reliant on it being 16 by 9 for those buttons to work. Just remembered I need to actually do a fresh game, so it forces me to spawn in the new starting lab. So delete progress. New game. Give me a head. Give me a head in a jar. That's all I've ever wanted. Ooh. Okay. That's a good sign, though. That is a good sign. So we'll dig through our console for some clues onto how it went so horribly wrong. And these are in order, so usually you want to check the first errors. The red ones are the bad ones. So I think this is breaking because I'm trying to reparent the guns, even though I don't think they're going to be there when it's just a head. So what I'm going to do is, first I'll try to just do exactly what I did before, but just I'll have it happen. Let's just do it at the end of everything. It's not really reliant on the order of creating that player. So I could probably do it. I don't think I need this enemy target thing anymore. I changed the way I do my targeting. So this should work. And I'm also gonna just hard code it so that the head spawn kind of Boolean is just set already. So we'll just do that at the top of our script. So now player spawner will always take out the legs and torso. And that means we can start this right from our level. And looks like it compiled. We'll try it again. It's really hoping for the miracle first work. Oh yes, glory, glorious. And maybe I should, eventually I'll... Okay, we have a head in a jar. That's amazing. We're cooking now. Alright. Bet you guys doubted it. You didn't think it would work. Still holding strong at 1 viewer. This is great. Almost tying our record of 2. A lot of Twitch streamers, their best advice is like, don't even look at the viewer count ever. Hide it if you can. And that's, you know, I'm not discouraged, of course. But that is good advice. I'm actually glad to be able to iron out the kinks in front of the 0 audience. Sorry, Sassy. You don't count since you're my friend. Alright, so we got a head spawning in here. And it works pretty well for the most part. Now I want to play with a kind of gravity script. We want it to feel floaty in there. And we also need a little enemy. So I'm going to make a new enemy type. We'll do that in a second. Let's not get carried away. Player spawner. Okay. Another thing I'll just try real quick. I've been curious about changing the zoom angle if you're ahead. So what I'll do is after we have this guy spawn in here, we're gonna just hard code this in and see if we can dial that zoom. So I think like 15 will be pretty tight in there. Basically, this is my camera manager. I'm just passing a zoom, accessing the zoom camera method and passing it a 15 unit distance. So that's going to be 15 units from the camera. Typically, I think my levels are 35 or 45 or something. So this will be pretty tight in. And then it's a 2-second zoom duration. Yeah, well, that feels pretty good. I'll stick with that. And let's see how this feels. All right. Yeah, that's kind of a nice little zoom. Got a gross head slopping around in here. All right. And then I'll probably do some kind of custom script that zooms out when you get out of that tank. Give you the feeling of freedom. You made it. You're a true free head floating around. All right. This is good. I actually feel like this is helping me be more productive because it's on display. I'm sure you guys can relate to that. So we got our head escape now. Let's check the chat. Okay, it's buzzing. People are excited. Thanks, everybody. Actually, I'm going to do some test widgets just to see if this even shows up on the... all right. Yep, got a follow. Got some subscriptions coming in. Donations are flying in. I wonder if this is... if people actually do that fake style. I think those work. I'm gonna have to make some custom widgets, like heads rolling around and stuff. When you follow, that'd be fun. Got the default zombie man. All right, so we got our head here. It's nice that that camera will only happen if we're on the initial head spawn. Now a gravity script, a gravity changing trigger is what we need. So I'll make a new game object. I'm going to create an empty child. Actually just created a real child a couple months ago. But this one's an empty child. We'll call this gravity change, gravity trigger. Yeah, I like the sound of that. We have camera triggers and music triggers and stuff, so we'll kind of mimic the way we do those. Pretty easy, especially if you're kind of curious about getting into scripting. Just messing around with triggers and collision stuff is a really good start. You can do a lot with that. All right, so we have this little gravity trigger, and we'll set it up with a box collider. Press 2, and I won't go into 2D view. I'll move this guy around the center, and ooh, you know what? We'll do this way, but I think I'll want to be a little more distinct about this and have this tied to the actual spawn. And the only time you're forced to enter. The gravity is just hard coded at the spawn, and then as soon as you exit the tank, I'll make an event that changes it. Yeah, this is actually will probably be okay for now. So we have a box collider. Currently, this would mess everything up because you'd collided with it. So instead, we'll make it a trigger. So now we have a trigger, and I'm going to open up one of my music. I have a camera trigger, and we'll open up the camera trigger. That'll be similar script. We'll just kind of steal from this one. And we have on trigger enter. Yeah, so pretty basic. We'll just steal all this. And we'll make a new C# script. Gravity trigger. Whoa. Whoa, man. That's crazy. Double click that. And I have a zillion things open, so I'm gonna simplify this and close all documents. And paste. Basically just pasted what I had for the camera trigger. And I believe our gravity, yeah, it's vector 3. So we'll do that. We'll do public vector 3. We'll do starting grav and target grav. So we'll say starting grav at the start of at the script, meaning the first frame that the script exists. So as soon as this level's loaded, or the first frame wherever the script is active, it'll run through this start method once. So we'll go starting grav equals physics, I believe, dot gravity. And that looks like it works because physics.gravity, if we hover over this, we can see that's also a vector3. That's just accesses the Unity's physics engine right there, which if you want to do this manually, you would go into edit, project settings, physics, gravity. So we're just changing this manually via script. And we can see most levels default I have is -28 and Y is all I have, but there's occasionally like scrolling levels or something where I add a little bit of -X to kind of mimic wind, and that's even something you can make your own, you'd be able to make your own system for. But right now, yeah, it'll probably just be changing -28. I'll just try a few different things out, see what it feels like. Hop back in here. So starting gravity is that. So basically we can switch it back to its starting gravity on exit. So on trigger, enter. If tag equals the target, the trigger target, this is just going to be a string. So we'll just set that to player so it triggers it correctly. And this is going to be real basic. Triggered, we'll leave that triggered equals true so it doesn't keep running through this once it's triggered. Wipe this out and we say on enter, maybe we should run this again. No, I think we'll just hard code it. And then on exit, triggered equals false, and physics gravity equals starting grav. So this is about, as simple as a script gets. Public, of course, means in the inspector we can manually change that. So we'll be, I guess the only thing that doesn't need to be public is starting grav. So if we want to be a little safer, we can just throw that as private, but target grav is something we do need to change, and we want other scripts potentially to be able to look at. So make it public. We'll just leave this public for now, just for debugging. Okay. So we have our gravity trigger object. Let's add our script. You can also just drag scripts over, but I usually just search through it over here. If it compiles and everything, we will have it available. And let's try gravity of -3. And we'll look for player. That's a string compare, not always the most efficient thing, but it's only going to be doing it on enter and exit. And like I said, not worth optimizing unless it's an issue. So we will essentially, we'll leave this here for now. We'll move it within the Cryo Tank. Actually, yeah, no harm in doing that now. We'll just move it right in here. That way when this is destroyed, our gravity is destroyed as well. Now what I'm not sure about is if the player spawns. I think when he instantiates, it'll count as him entering that trigger. So this looks like the gravity's been affected. So I can go check it just to debug. Physics, and up here, gravity -3. All right, script is working. Now we could dial it in here manually, figure out what we want it to be. Sometimes that spine can be tricky. Oh no, my trigger is manually changing it. Okay, so we will have to change it in the trigger because it kept entering the trigger zone. So I'm curious what 0 feels like. All right, so it's kind of working now. There is an issue though. Because I destroy that trigger, it doesn't have a chance to run through, turning the gravity back to the starting position. So one thing I might want to do here, I still think we want a gravity trigger, but we'll hard code it at the spawn to be whatever feels right, and then we'll use the trigger to reset it. So we'll move this outside. All right, so each level, basically, I have a little level config that has its gravity on it. So I'm just trying to access that for the gravity trigger. Okay, so I'll also have a bool here. Set to config. So if set to config is true, we will drill down to the game systems, game state, .get config. If we get it, so do a quick null check. Need to make a new vector3 here, manually assign x and y to it. And 0. And we do our physics gravity. So this trigger is basically set up. It can either do the target, or if we have set to config, it'll just actually, the trigger will reset it. So kind of gives us a couple uses. I'll probably end up refactoring that, but I just want to see if this works. And now we need to manually code the head spawn area. So if head spawn is true, And I always keep forgetting it's going to be... I normally have my Visual Studio on my second screen. It's going to be hard to remember to move it over every time. So if ever I forget, just make sure to hit me up on chat. And this is where we'll hard code the gravity to begin with here. I wonder if we could just change Y directly. Yeah, I figured we had to manually create a new vector 3. Vector 3 again is just a array of 3 floats, essentially. So we want 0. Actually, we just want that to be vector 3, 0. It's just shorthand for 0, 0, 0. New grav, and then we can do we could have actually done vector gravity equals new grav, but I'll leave it in this format in case we need to change it to like 1 or something. Okay, so now we're starting out at 0 gravity from the spawn. And we have our trigger that is gonna default to the config, set to config, and basically each level I have a level config somewhere buried around here. Let's see if we can find it and make sure the gravity's set here. It wasn't, so I'm glad I did that here. So set that to -28. I have those in levels, so I can hit change gravity and the level config will set the default gravity. And I'm not liking how the spine's been kind of getting mangled up in these edges here. So maybe I can give a little more buffer here. And it's okay, since you're trapped in here, it's okay if they are very overboard on the size of these colliders, I think. And I'm actually going to remove, we'll just remove that. All right. Let's see. We should start it as a head. We should start 0 gravity, and then we should, going through that trigger after breaking out, should reset us. Yeah, okay. So I move around, 0 gravity. So maybe trigger exit was throwing that off. Because it wasn't ever resetting back to negative 28 on gravity. Try that again. All right, so that's finally working. But I just had an idea. I think it's going to be better. This is getting all messy, which is always what happens, especially when you're just kind of winging it. So rather than this gravity mess, we just want something clean. We're going to make a little force kind of zone trigger. As on trigger stay, essentially, we're going to apply a force to what's ever in there. So it's going to be we'll have a vector 3 that kind of figures out the force direction, and we'll apply it to whatever's in this trigger. So we'll be able to use it for kind of basically underwater areas rather than messing with that gravity stuff. But good news is we have a gravity trigger working. We might need that for something else. So I'm still gonna save that work into a prefabs folder. I think I have one that's just called triggers. Yeah. So I have music trigger, jump trigger, and we'll add to that gravity trigger. Sorry, buddy, we gotta kill you. All right, so force. I think we'll call this next one, still be a trigger. So we'll be very similar, I think. Force trigger. Reload that bad boy up, and we're going to do this one. We'll be on trigger stay instead of enter. So it's only going to do that as the object is still in the trigger. And we'll have so if we want this to behave like water, I think we'll do I'll try to get a rigid body here. So on trigger stay, we're just going to check if we only really want this. We need to make sure it has a rigid body for it to work with physics. So we want to double check that right on trigger stay before we check anything else. and then we will say trigger stay if RB does not equal null. So force, we're looking for a basic force, and we'll just add this as a public. This should work simply. Keep it simple, stupid. Okay, that's all this is going to do. We're adding a force to a rigid body, if it exists. We might later do a string check to make sure it's a player, but it seems like anything in the water we'd want to add this force to. Okay. Should have kept that other trigger just as a base. Let's rip this out. Set it to trigger. Probably don't need a tag on this. Plenty of Z depth. Call this one force trigger. And it is in the cryo tank prop. So later this will be a prefab. And add our, don't need a rigid body here. We add our force trigger script, and this is something we'll have to just tweak in the editor probably, but I'll just take a guess here and do 200. So essentially it's going to add force of 200 up every single frame that the object is in this trigger. Now I am worried it's going to try to move some other crap around. Yeah, we'll start with it. We want this script to be pretty general. Okay, so now we want to go back to our player spawner script, and we don't want to mess with gravity. That was crazy. That was crazy talk. Another thing that's been bugging me right now, I have the default control overlay turns on. So in my level, I have a script that's all my level names and information with toggles and stuff. Some of them I have show controls on by default, just for like the first time you use a certain vehicle. This level will probably have that, but I just don't have the head controls overlay made yet, so I'll turn that off and apply that. Always cracks me up, just random explosions and crap happening. Okay, so that's working. My guy's just getting shoved up top. But we don't want that much. It's too much force. This drives me insane. Fucking apps that just try to dock everywhere. Fucking madness. Okay. So de-docked. Let's check out that force trigger. So 200 is crazy. It's down to 50. We'll really dial this in perfect, I promise. Ooh, that's interesting. I like it, I like it, I like it, I like it. A little too floaty, but wonder why those bubbles aren't showing up. We'll have to increase the... Oh, I think the origin of it is too low on the bubbles, so they don't pop up unless they're being rendered. Damn, we're getting somewhere though. This is like, we're making a game. Ladies and gentlemen, we're making a game. Shit. Okay, so let's dial that force trigger down to 35. You know what? I'll add some noise to it so it fluctuates a little bit. That'll be nice. 35, too low. 40. Maybe too high. Maybe 38's the magic number. My age. The age where it all happens for you. All comes together at 38. Do your drill. That's fun. Okay. You know, this is probably a good starting point to see if this whole intro idea works. You bust out. The force is gone. Now we're just back to regular real life gravity. Alright, I like it, I like it, I like it. Yay, the crowd goes friggin' wild. Alright. Yeah, if I wasn't streaming this, this is like 2 weeks of work, but because I'm in front of that cam, gotta do some work. I like it. It's a good system. Okay, we got a head and a jar spawned. Never been done. Okay, now just to clean this area up a little bit, I want to add some more collision to the main room, so this little ramp you can't go into. So I don't, sometimes I'll make like a child collision group here, rather than having all the collision right on the actual mesh object. Sometimes it's nice to have the collider as a separate thing. So that's what I'm doing here. That gives you the option to actually rotate the individual pieces, because you don't have a rotate option on box colliders. You could have mesh colliders too, but those get more expensive and are a little more error prone, so I kind of avoid them if I can. So I think something like, might be able to get away with something like this. Only downside is if there is a way to get up on the roof, so it's a little sloppy. But that would just be a fun little Easter egg if you bumped off this imaginary collision. People would laugh. Alright. Damn, let's try this out. Let's do another break out of the jar. Oh crap, I don't think yeah, did not update my actual force trigger changes. We did that live. That's something I constantly do. I think we went 38, age of the man. Okay. Just trust it. We have to believe. Alright, alright. I got a floaty head. He's in a jar. He's pissed off. Bust out. Got some collision. I can jump around. One thing the head state can do as well is you basically keep jumping, you can climb on different surfaces. Got an aim laser on a chainsaw. So right now these just spawn random enemies to give you some more options for mixing meat. Practicing the mechanics. But I think I'll have ways to unlock enemies in your starting base. So you can kind of come back here and make new builds as your default starting build. Alright, holy shit. We have the start of something. It's like we're making progress here. Got a head in a jar. It actually kind of works even without the scientist idea. But I do think that'll be fun to get working. Now, that one prefab is kind of bugging me, so I'm going to take out some of those giant metal beams. So I think we call that head cryo something. Head tank. Cryo tank head for some reason didn't show up in my. I think that's case sensitive or something because that should have showed up. We'll drop this back in here just to update it. Oh no, that's not it. We want this. Well, maybe these are just too big. I think those bubbles, I'll try to fix that. Sometimes the Unity's too good about like culling things if they're not at the origin point. So like those bubbles weren't showing up if the base was just below. So let's see if we can fix that by having the origin up a little higher. And the particle system's fun to mess around with. So color over lifetime. I have my fade a little too gradual. So let's bring that up. I want to have it opaque more towards the very end. So that works. Let's get some more bubbles. That is not enough bubbles. A lot of times in head jars, you want to hit about at least 50 on the rate. Little tip. In our lifetime, I basically have this solid, so rather than like a random range, that way we can cut it off at the exact height of the jar. Oh, we can even preview how it's getting cut off here. So it is actually looking at the particle system, which is unfortunate. So let's see if we can adjust the shape, emit from the base, maybe from volume. Might just have to move it up a little bit. It's not ideal, but see if this works for us. I have a weird issue sometimes when I load it up. I need to save it before. It's specific to one of the scripts I added. It's not Unity's fault, I promise. Okay, at least those bubbles are more apparent. And I'm guessing people will just naturally break out of that without any prompts, what I would hope at least. All right, let's actually, I'll do a build. No, we'll put a placeholder little scientist in here walking around first. Okay, so to do that, we will grab a spawner. Here's just the enemy spawner. I'll remove that from the tank that it was with. So it is a soldier. It's not a cryo tank spawn. That just turns off its AI in my script. It will not be random. That way we can choose an ID. And I'll go into my enemy defined script. We'll add a new little definition here. So these just kind of keep track of the colors and some of the AI's abilities and which gun the enemies have. I'll minimize these. We'll add one more, so we'll have 13. So that's just an array of the enemy defined types. And it duplicated the last one, so we'll rename this scientist. And the different helmets and everything, I don't have models for this yet, so we'll just use what the player has. 000 prefab, and all these we'll do white for scientist. And we'll do a new library. Yeah, we'll start with player colors. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll create a new library called scientist. And then eventually I'll dial the tents in within this library. But right now, just click each one of these. Basically, each head, legs, and torso each have a primary and secondary tent color to them. So we'll make him he can chase, can't shoot. I might leave aim on because he'll be holding a clipboard. Might look funny if he's like moving around. Take off kneel. We'll leave stun on. Gun. Need to look at my gun manager real quick. We'll need to create a new clipboard gun for him. Hammer. Not even sure if hammer was. Don't even remember if I've used that. Okay, we'll see if that works. So hammer is gun number 16. Just use that as a placeholder on my enemy define. I believe, yeah. So 13, the array is 13, but it starts at 0, count 0, 1, 2. So that means the scientist is ID will be 12 on my spawner. 12, 12, 12, 12, 12. Gotta remember 12. So that's where I set soldier ID 12. I have a spawn on screen thing. Hopefully this will be off screen and he'll spawn fine. And max count. We just want one current scientist at a time. If you kill him, it'll respawn, so it'll still give you an option, which should work well. All right, fingers crossed. Probably wrap it up after this for the first inaugural stream. All right. Got a creepy scientist guy there. He's studying a soldier. He's got a hammer. He's chasing you down. He's like, oh my god, a head's loose in the lab. And take his body. Got some camera issues with that. Okay, so got a bunch of issues with the using the hammer. That's something I haven't implemented yet, so let's just... God, do we want to just do a quick clipboard? That would be fun. Shall we do a clipboard? Nope. We'll save it for when we start designing that scientist model, and that'll be a whole nother stream. Enemy defined, so right now we'll give him a chainsaw. Seems about right. Or 19 spike. Yeah, we'll give him a chainsaw. 15. I have a feeling this will not work either, because my attack range and stuff is set for the heavy machine gun guy. But we will try. Alright, looks like for anyone that's just joining in, We're developing the intro sequence of a game called Bullet Bros. Still pretty placeholder, but alright, that kind of works. This guy is our scientist placeholder, hence the white garb. Alright, so need to figure out a way where we need to adjust the camera once you take over the body. I thought I had in the script where you have camera assignments assigned to like the head. Yeah, let's try that again. Felt like the yeah, I think the gravity's right. That'll be fun once I hook up the clipboard to that guy. You're just swinging a clipboard around for a little bit. All right, I think that's good. So that's going to wrap up the little test stream today. Next one, like I said, we'll work on kind of sketching out the scientist for a little bit, and then I'll try to hook him up in the mechanics of that, get the clipboard added, and might flesh out this, make it look more like a little science lab for the intro to Bullet Bros. Thanks for watching, everybody. We're out of here.